Andrew Tate, ex-girlfriend, speaks. Many teenage boys' favourite talking toe has found himself, of course, in difficulties, currently incarcerated in Romania. Things aren't getting any better for him, as a report by the BBC by Hayley Mortimer and Georgia Cohen provides us with more information put forward by an ex-girlfriend of his that doesn't paint him in a favourable light. A British woman who says she was in a relationship with controversial social media influencer Andrew Tate has told the BBC how he encouraged her to work for his webcam company before becoming controlling and violent. I've explained elsewhere why Andrew Tate is a narcissist, and he's one that doesn't operate with a facade. What you see is what you get. Although there is an exaggerated form of behaviour in what he shows the world, it isn't a facade because it's basically an amplification of the way that he ordinarily behaves. The article tells us, "It's very difficult because I don't feel like a victim. All the choices I made were of my own free will. He didn't bundle me up into a bag, throw me in the back of a lorry and drive me there," says Sophie. Well, funny enough, Sophie, that tends to be what happens in films, and most of the time it's far easier to manipulate people into doing what we want, and we don't have to go so far as to rudimentarily bop you over the head and stick you in a sack. But he knew what he was doing. At what point does the emotional or psychological manipulation turn into being forced to do something? Now, Tate, of course, knew full well that he was trying to get this person to do what he wanted, and he would recognise that was part of controlling her. He doesn't understand that he has an all-encompassing need to control everybody that he interacts with, nor does he understand the necessity of ensuring that he has to have fuel. Furthermore, he doesn't recognise the need for character traits and residual benefits. He will know that he tells people to behave in a particular way so that they do things for him, but he doesn't recognise that it's part of the prime aims. The article continues, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan are in custody in Romania while police investigate allegations of rape and trafficking. Prosecutors allege the pair recruited victims by seducing them. Benign behaviours, golden period, and falsely claiming they wanted to have a relationship, future faking, which the police have dubbed the lover boy method. Victims were then forced or manipulated into working in their adult entertainment chat rooms. Assertion of control through manipulation, residual benefit. Sophie, not her real name, says this is exactly what happened to her. She is now helping prosecutors with their investigation. She told BBC Radio 4 programme File on 4 that Tate approached her completely out of the blue, lack of boundary recognition, on Facebook and was very charming. He was sort of luring me into believing that he was somebody that I could trust and someone that genuinely wanted to build a connection with me. Future faking, assertion of control. She says their exchanges were typical of people getting to know each other with no red flags. I'll warrant that there were red flags, but she just didn't know to recognise them. After talking to him online, she agreed to travel to his home in the Romanian capital, Bucharest. I was at a stage of my life where everything felt a bit boring and a bit dull, and this idea of an adventure just seemed attractive, she explains. This, in effect, is a form of vulnerability that Tate has exploited. As their relationship developed, Sophie regularly visited Tate in Romania. He told her he wanted her to be his girlfriend, future faking, but soon began asking her to work for him, residual benefit. A couple of times he said to me, "You should do it. You'd make a fortune." Triangulation with object, namely the money. "But you don't have to if you don't want to do it. I make enough money," Sophie says. But he was always reminding me that the option was there. And that progressed into, "If you love me, you would do it." Application of guilt. "If you care about me, you would do it." Application of guilt. "We can make all of this money." Triangulation. And over time, just chipping away at me, attrition, he eventually led me to think, maybe he's right. Maybe I should be doing it. Sophie had worked in the adult entertainment industry before, so she was open to the suggestion, undoubtedly something that Tate will have ascertained as a consequence of his questioning of her, and therefore his narcissism compelled him to utilise this vulnerability. Now, of course, working in the adult entertainment industry doesn't make you vulnerable, but what it does mean is that she was vulnerable to his overtures by way of manipulation, because his narcissism would recognise that she was more likely to agree to it because she had a background in the adult entertainment industry. But she says she felt coerced and worried that if she refused, she might lose him, threaten loss. In a now deleted page on his website, Tate describes how he operated his webcam business. His account chimes with Sophie's in many ways. He described his job as to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, get her to fall in love with me to where she'd do anything I say. The video continues, and then get her on webcam so that we become rich together. Seduction, residual benefits. In the decade he says he has been running his studio, he claims more than half of his employees were his girlfriends, exploitation, and none were in the adult industry before they met him. Sophie's account contradicts this. Sophie says she earned around £800 for 6 hours' work, from which Tate would take 50%. Representatives of the industry in Romania told the BBC this was not unusual for webcam studios. Over time, Sophie says Tate's behaviour towards her worsened. Devaluing behaviour. She claims he became increasingly controlling, imposing cash fines if she went out without his permission, and that he became violent. Assertion of control, absence of emotional empathy, lack of accountability. There was some disagreement. He held me up against the wall. Assertion of control through physical violence, and he slapped me really hard. Assertion of control through physical violence, and followed it with, "You whore," she says, verbal violence, insult. She added that rough sex turned into something she had not consented to. Most of the violence was sexual violence, assertion of control. That's obviously something that he's into. He likes to feel completely in control of the woman and feel like he could take their life away at any second. That's a big sexual turn-on for him, she explains. What it really is that control over that individual and the fuel that's received from the individual when they're having control asserted over them in this manner makes Tate feel powerful, which they equate to a turn-on. I was so intent on just wanting to please him and just wanting him to be happy, but looking back on it, he used to strangle me, assertion of control, to the point where I passed out once. And I think he panicked then because he knew he'd gone too far. Or rather, the anxiety that he experienced was a consequence of her potential death that could threaten his sense of control by exposing him to criminal convictions. He wasn't worried about her. The BBC has seen messages and listened to voice recordings sent to Sophie from Tate that appear to support her claims of controlling behaviour, hoovering, assertion of control. Sophie says she eventually left the relationship after having a moment of clarity that constantly feeling inferior to him, belittlement, invalidation, was not right. I realised I couldn't live like that anymore and that it wasn't normal. I just had to get away from it, she explains. I remember being at work and I was just so overwhelmed and I never felt a darkness like it. Victim escapes. She describes Tate as a very complex man who was quite different to the character he presented online, where he's known for his high-volume rants, tirades, often filmed while smoking a cigar or surrounded by his supercars. He's very manipulative. He totally lacks any kind of empathy, absence of emotional empathy. He is a narcissist. He's like that 100%, she says. I don't think he's emotional capable of feeling love, correct, for anyone or anything, even his family, even his brother. There's just nothing. In the space in our brains where we feel love and compassion and empathy, in his, it's just a hole. There's nothing there. Correct? The BBC put these allegations to Tate through his lawyer, but Mattia Petrescu, who handles media requests for the Tate brothers, said they would not comment on the claims. Assertion of control by staying in a position of withdrawal. Investigators in Romania have confirmed that 6 women have been identified as potential victims of trafficking, but last month 2 of the women publicly denied any mistreatment by the Tate brothers, while other women have spoken positively to the BBC about their time spent with Tate. Remember, of course, narcissists aren't monsters all of the time, and you'll always be able to find people that speak well about us. But Sophie says some of these women who Tate generally treated well, benign manipulations, while others are still under his control. He's always one step ahead, she says. He will be mindful of the fact he needs as many glowing reviews as he does negative ones in order to defend himself. Equally, there are going to be girls that will be so infatuated and brainwashed by him that they are never going to say a bad word. Product of emotional thinking and manipulation. There will also be some that are speaking out of fear because he's threatening. Use the threat. Police have not yet filed any charges against the brothers, who have been in detention along with 2 Romanian women since December the 29th. They have denied the allegations against them. A useful article which shows you that not only does this individual recognise him as being a narcissist, at least after the event, but provides you with a breakdown of the various behaviours of Tate, demonstrating what he is. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.